Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, it's time we took a look at Rhyperior. There's a new Rhyperior coming out, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming out in Sword and Shield, and it is, to be blunt, a very big boy. Now, our translations come from the lovely David Hockman over at limitlesstcg.com/translations, and we need to start off with that HP. 190 HP is gigantic. The only Pokemon we've seen, the only Stage 2, which can be that high, is the Rillaboom from the VDEX, which also has 190 HP. They are the only 290 HP Stage 2s we've had. Yes, I know that Wailord has more, and yes, I know that Wailord has more. But outside of that, you just don't get this much HP on a single prize Pokemon. That alone makes it extremely interesting. The weakness to grass is honestly fine. Yeah, I'm thinking that Rillaboom decks might be quite good moving forward, but then again, Welder's still a thing, so any fire deck running on Welder is going to have a really nice time against these grass decks, which are going to put grass decks down. And the retreat cost of 4 is awesome. It's something that the other Rillaboom has as well, but it's still a huge bonus. It means that you can pop buff padding on to put yourself up to a 240 HP single prize Pokemon. It means you can be searched out using Pokemaniac, or draw extra cards using Lickitung, or discard it to do extra damage using Steelix. It's good to have a retreat cost of 4 right now, ladies and gentlemen. And it's also good to be a fighting Pokemon. More Pico V's looking really tastily good. That's going to be weak. Silvally GX is good. That's going to be weak. And then you've got things like Diancie Prism Star to do extra damage. Martial Arts Dojo to do extra damage. Karate Belt to reduce your attack cost. It's a very nice time to be a fighting Pokemon. But what does it do? Well, according to David, the first attack, fighting, double colorless, 90 damage. This attack's damage isn't affected by resistance. And there's really a few different ways to look at this. I mean, on the face of it, fighting double colorless, it's not particularly cheap. Now, if you're behind on prizes, you can use Karate Belt to take it down to 2 colorless energy, and then a triple acceleration energy will pay it in one go. So you can get this going in a single turn with just Karate Belt, triple acceleration energy, and you're off and rolling. That is absolutely possible. As a side note, I absolutely adore the artwork on this card. Very evocative. Anyway, so you can get this going in one turn, and there is actually a lot of stuff that resists fighting. All flying Pokemon, regardless of what type they end up actually being, end up being resistant to fighting. Something like Cramorant. Colorless Pokemon, because it's flying, it resists fighting. Something like Eviltal, darkness Pokemon, but because it's a flying type, it resists fighting. So you are going through all of those, and that's quite nice, but 90 damage still isn't very good. But of course, it doesn't have to be 90 damage, because Diancie Prism Star puts you up to 110 damage. And then of course, let's not forget that we've also got Martial Arts Dojo. So let's say you're behind on prizes, that 90 becomes 110, and then when Martial Arts Dojo becomes 150, and now you're hitting 150 and going through resistance, although upsettingly you're still quite far away from getting Cramorant. I mean, we should also mention Vitality Band here. It's just a tool card that lets you do an extra 10 damage, and these fighting decks at the moment do about 70 more damage than stated. That is to say, you do 20 more for Diancie Prism Star, 40 more for Martial Arts Dojo, 10 more for Vitality Band, so that 90 soon turns into 160. It's alright. It's still a bit more expensive than we'd like, but we've got ways to pay the attack cost, and we've got ways to beef up the damage, and again, you've got a gigantic amount of HP here. As a side note, you cannot do Vitality Band and buff padding, so you're going to have to decide whether you want to do the 10 more damage or have the 50 more HP. And really, that's going to come down to matchups. Depends what you think you're going to be playing against. Sometimes you're going to need that extra HP to avoid being KO'd. Sometimes you're going to need the extra 10 damage to get the KO, and it may well vary between tournaments. But the main attack, the bigger attack here is the second one. 2 fighting, 2 colorless, so yes, it's pretty gosh darned expensive. 120 damage, plus 60 to each bench Pokemon with any damage counters on them. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Like 120 to the active is fine. And if you're hitting for weakness, stuff like Silvally GX will go down. Things like Snorlax V will go down. Though Snorlax V Max will still be away. Except you won't. Snorlax V Max, you need to do 170 damage with weakness to double to 340 and get a KO. Well, ordinarily here, you're doing 120, so you need to add 50, so that is Martial Arts Dojo while behind on prizes, and either a Vitality Band or a Diancie Prism Star, so even that is going down in one hit. Even if you're not hitting for weakness, remember we're saying we can add an extra 70 damage. So this 120 actually becomes 190, and okay, you're not getting all the Pokemon V. There's plenty of Pokemon V that you're not getting. But then again, you're getting something like Victini V that's looking like it might be quite good. It means you're getting pretty much all of those basic GXs, even the bigger ones like Ultra Necrozma. It means that you're hitting essentially every single prize Pokemon, even things like one of these or a Rillaboom coming in at 190. So the only things you're not one-hit KOing here are non-weak Evolve GXs, Tag Team GXs, VMAX, and bigger Vs. That's pretty sweet. But then, of course, you're also doing 60 damage to each bench Pokemon with any damage counters on them. Which means that you might only be doing 190 to the active, but because you're spending 60 to all the bench Pokemon, by the time they come in the active, they've probably got, say, 70 damage on, which means that that 190 actually turns into 260, and then you're getting an awful lot of stuff. Now, you do need to get damage on the bench, but we've actually got a surprisingly good amount of ways to do this at the moment. I mean, if you're against an EX or GX deck, the answer's easy, it's Shrine of Punishment. Now, remember, you cannot use this with Martial Arts Dojo, but remember, by the time you've got Martial Arts Dojo to do more damage while you spread, you need to already have the damage on the bench. So we're talking Shrine of Punishment for turn 1 or 2, and then when Rhyperior comes up and starts rolling, then you would switch into using Martial Arts Dojo. But with Cosmic Eclipse, we got Roxy and Weezing. Roxy lets you discard 2 Pokemon from your hand, drawing 3 cards for each one discarded. Weezing, if discarded using Roxy, does 1 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Koffing, incidentally, will do the same thing, but Koffing's a basic, which means you can start with it, and it also means it cannot be recovered with Lure Ball, and Lure Ball and Weezing make a phenomenal combo. Flip 3 coins for each head, put an evolution Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand. It's pretty gosh darned awesome. And then that'll get the damage on, ready to do the extra. We do also have the Weezing that does damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon when it's in the active, but I'm not loving that so much. It's an evolution, it's got to be in the active, blah, blah, blah. Now, the thing is, we've actually got a really nice thing nowadays for decks like this, and it's Lily's Clefairy. You see, Lily's Clefairy is just, or Lily's Pokédoll, I think it was actually translated as, sits in the active as a 30 HP Pokemon, and when KO'd, it doesn't give up a prize. What that means is you can leave this in the active for a turn or two, while you spread some damage around with Koffing, while you evolve up, while you get the energy on, and okay, your opponent might hit double Custom Catcher, or they might be playing Pokemon Catcher and hit aheads, but if they're relying on something like Great Catcher, just make sure you don't pop any GXs on the bench, and you'll be fine here. And now all of a sudden, and this is one thing that Stage 2 decks have nowadays, time to set up. And yes, it's an expensive attack, but you've got time to get rolling. You've got Triple Acceleration Energy, you've got Karate Belt. And if you can leave Lily's Pokédoll in the active, you're not giving up prizes, and then use a bit of Weezing to spread some damage, and then bring in your 190 or 240 HP Rhyperior, hitting probably 180 to the active, because we're probably using buff padding over Vitality Band. while spreading 60 damage to the bench that's already got damage on. It's ridiculous. And imagine you're against an evolving deck. Imagine if you're against, well, anything that plays a 70 HP basic or less. So something like Malamar, something like Naganadel, etc. Your opponent just cannot bench any basics. Because it doesn't matter how many they bench, the second they bench any basics, use Coughing with Roxy, and then attack with Rhyperior, and you're doing 70 damage to all of their bench, which means any of those evolving basics are being knocked out immediately. Yes, it's very, very expensive. I get that. But you're doing a lot of damage, and you're spreading, and we've got things like Lily's Pokédoll to buy yourself some time, and even going behind one prize isn't that bad, because you've got Karate Bout and Martial Arts Dojo that will thank you for it. If we get a better way to accelerate energy than Groudon from Cosmic Eclipse, who is an option but not a great one, I do think we could have an absolute powerhouse on our hands here. As it is, it might be a little expensive, it might be a little slow, but there's so much potential here. I'm giving this 3 Wassies. I think this could be an awful lot of fun. But I would be very interested to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice, and then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't even have Pokemon in, but are still pretty gosh darned awesome. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.